G'day folks, Scott here. Welcome to my worst movies of 2017 video. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Watch the best movies of 2017 that I uploaded yesterday if you haven't yet. And as I said with yesterday's video, pretty much all these movies will have a detailed review on my channel. This is more of a summary and a discussion about how I felt over the course of the year than it is a detailed one for each movie. I will go into some detail. So yeah, as always, thanks for watching. So, 2017. There's a couple of movies, well, specifically one movie that I really feel for me falls into this mediocre category, that's somewhere between a good category and somewhere between a bad category. I'll do some sort of mentions of stuff that I thought was pretty average first, and then my sort of top 3 most terrible movies for me of the year. But this first one fits somewhere between them because I like parts of it and I hate parts of it, and I'm still not sure how I feel. And that movie would be Alien Covenant. I am a massive Alien fan. I have been since I was a kid. I've detailed videos on all of the Alien movies on this channel where I did a retrospective series for each movie in the lead up to Alien Covenant coming out. So I had high hopes. And of course, high hopes generally equals disappointment. See The Last Jedi. So it's kind of my own fault, and it's kind of Ridley Scott's fault. And by Ridley Scott's fault, I think for a man of that caliber who has that much of a history in film to completely about-face his direction from Prometheus based on social media and say, I put the aliens back in this movie because the internet told me to do so, even though I don't find the aliens scary and I never wanted them back, is just piss weak. It's such a stupid thing to do that I was just amazed that someone could be so easily misled by the internet who has such a prestigious career. My problem with Alien Covenant was that it was 2 movies. It was sort of Prometheus 2 and it was sort of a remake of Alien 1, and it didn't do either of them particularly well. There's 20 minutes of this movie that I love, being the first neomorph birth coming out of the dude's back, and then the one that happens in the wilderness. Everything between that guy coming onto the ship with the thing in his back and David showing up with the flare gun and scaring the neomorphs off. I love that. It's like 15-20 minutes of movie. This is incredible. Everything around it is very hit and miss for me, so I don't know where I feel. I kind of love some of it and I kind of hate some of it, so it's somewhere in between these 2 videos, and that's all I've got to say about that. So let's get to the ones I didn't like. Rings. Piece of shit. Waste of time. The Japanese Ring and Ring 2 were fine. The American remake of Ring that Gore Verbinski did was pretty good. The sequel was terrible. But there's just nothing more to tell about this. Stop it. It didn't work. The whole ridiculous Final Destination rip-off thing on the plane at the beginning, and having Leonard from The Big Bang Theory trying to come off as a serious character and doing a miserable job of it. The main chick was useless, wasn't scary. You know, the plasma TV on the floor thing wasn't good. Shit movie. Disappointing. Then after that, although a lot of my friends liked this movie, the next disappointment for me was Kong Skull Island. I was completely misled by not watching trailers for this movie, and the fact that I heard that it was the people who made the Godzilla remake, and I really expected a more serious movie instead of this big monsters running through and the forest, just characterless, shitty written monster fest that just wasn't even that interesting. Didn't get it, didn't understand it. I didn't even think the effects on Kong were as well done as they were on Peter Jackson's Kong, which came out 10 years earlier. Didn't rate it, not interested in anymore. My excitement for the War of the Monsters franchises that they're trying to build here has diminished massively. Next would be The Mummy. Universal thinking that you could just go, we're making a cinematic universe because everyone else did, and just because in the 1930s that we had this series of movies with these classic horror characters that we helped create did really, really well, that doesn't mean we can do it again now by getting Tom Cruise to have something to do with it. The fact that you open the movie with your cinematic universe, Universal logo, like you'd already decided you were balls deep in this thing, was ridiculous. This movie sucked. It could have been better. It had a chance to be better. There were 2 or 3 little cool sequences in there, but it was poor writing, shitty supporting cast, lame characters, and expecting Tom Cruise to carry the whole thing didn't work. Didn't work at all. You screwed up royally. You had a chance, you blew it, now it's over. You've had to cancel the rest of your movies, so now we're going to try again and reboot something, I'm sure. So Universal, don't have Tom Cruise. Find someone who's a genuine horror fan. Try harder. Next for me would be Justice League, which falls into that very divisive category, like I said in my last video with The Last Jedi and It, both of which were, very divisive films this year. Justice League for me, it was better than I thought it would be, to be honest. Like, obviously the fanboys really got upset about, Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, and then they got their hopes up really high with Wonder Woman. Then I think as the most part they all pretty much felt let down by this. I find there's a lot of diehard DC guys who are defending this movie adamantly because they want to hang on to the fact that they can still pull this franchise back on track and get everything going. But for me, being a horror guy, if your bad guy isn't any good, your movie sucks. And that, for me, was the biggest problem here. Steppenwolf was a shit bad guy. He wasn't interesting. His motivations weren't even known, let alone interesting. All he was a less ambitious ego from Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with a shitty CGI face that in this day and age had no excuse looking that bad. That big set piece battle thing at the end taking place in this red blue screeny environment in this town where it seems that only one family mattered was completely uninteresting. Like I said, sky surfing Aquaman and his woe dude Hang 10 Point Break accent, and just more bad than good. They definitely had some good, and I definitely did enjoy some stuff, and having not seen the trailers, I did enjoy its humor, but more bad than good equals a bad movie, and that's that. Next would be The Dark Tower. I wanted to like this. As I said in my detailed review, I hadn't read the entire series of books. I'd only read the first few, but I was an Idris Elba fan. I thought, this year everyone seems to be getting on the Stephen King bandwagon, and there's a lot of stuff coming out, and I really had high hopes for it. And it was probably the most mediocre film I saw this year in the fact that it was just meh. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't well acted. The action was boring. The Stephen King references in there were so ham-fisted and so often and frequent, and weren't even in the background where a diehard fan had noticed something. They're like, in your face, oh, there's a balloon, and in case you didn't know it's from it, here's the huge word Pennywise, and too much. Mediocre, uninteresting movie that was from a beloved franchise of books. Stick to the books, forget the movie, no good. So next, in no particular order, will be the 3 worst movies I saw this year, and probably by a mile here. Now, I completely hated Kingsman 2: The Golden Circle. I thought Kingsman 1 was great. I went on and about this in my review, so if you want to hear it in detail, go and watch it. But how the same guy who wrote and directed the first one could then write this one, which is a complete parody and misinterpretation of what the first one got right. Shit bad guy, boring, crappy CG dogs, repetitive action, everything just too long, unfunny jokes, shit cameos, the list goes on. This movie just completely just dumbfounded by how the same guy could make a sequel to his own movie and fuck it up so royally. I didn't understand it at all. Next would be Transformers. No surprise there, I can't believe I went and saw it. That was actually one of the movies I did every trailer for before I went and saw it this year, and I'm still promising I'll do this no trailer video, and I'll get to that, but couldn't understand what was going on. Even in the action scenes, I couldn't follow them. They were poorly shot, poorly choreographed, poorly edited. As always, the CGI was exemplary. It was incredibly well done, but if you can't understand what's happening in an action sequence when you're an acclaimed sort of been around forever action director who has made a couple of okay movies, what the hell? People need to stand up to this guy and either strip his budget so he can't do this anymore and he has to go back to being a basic filmmaker, or he needs someone to choreograph his action better and someone to edit his movies better, and they need to keep him away from that because it's just not working. The movie was too long, the acting was dismal, the writing was dismal, the Transformers still look cool, but they've looked cool the entirety of the time, so that's not even a compliment at this point. Shit movie. Now, the last one here, which I doubt any of you have probably even seen, which is in a long line of prequels that didn't need to be made, was Leatherface. You probably don't even know this movie existed. It didn't come out in cinemas in Australia. It definitely did overseas. It's widely hated. There's a big fanboy movement, and I agree with a lot of it, with the fact that demystifying a bad guy is not a good idea. I think if I had to say any of them did it okay, and I still don't really like most of this movie, was Rob Zombie's Halloween. I don't hate what they did with Michael Myers with that as a kid, because they never still exactly explained what was wrong with him. They just showed a little more of him in the psychiatric hospital and all that. But as soon as he was an adult, and as soon as Zombie basically reshot the original Halloween scene for scene, and it had its unnecessary, awkward, rapey sequence in the middle and stuff, shit movie. But I'm not even reviewing that. That didn't come out this year. The reason I brought that up was a Leatherface follows suit. We're demystifying Leatherface as a character and showing where he came from in the most uninteresting, unhorrific, stupid way imaginable. We knew enough about that family already. We've seen a whole bunch of Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies that show the entire family, from people younger than Leatherface to grandpa. We know they're cannibals. We know they had a fast food kind of meat outlet kind of stall thing that sold the public human meat because they thought it was hilarious. They've gone from, very psychological horror in the first movie to very over-the-top 80s comical horror in the second movie, to all kinds of things in between. I don't hate the actual remake that came from, surprisingly enough, Michael Bay's studio back in the early 2000s. Like, that was a pretty mean movie, had some pretty good gore for an American horror film. It's certainly not the best of the remakes. That still, for me, is Hills Have Eyes. That's better than the original Hills Have Eyes in my mind. But this didn't tell me anything I needed to know, and none of the characters were interesting. None of the kills were interesting. It was a complete waste of 2 hours of my life. And for that, it gets, up there with that 3 worst movies I saw this year. So there's my shit list. That was, everything I could think of off the top of my head. I'll probably think of more later. But yeah, that's my list of the worst movies. So 2018 is just around the corner, like literally tomorrow. There's a lot of movies I'm looking forward to. I said in my other video, the new Guillermo del Toro Shape of Water movie comes out. I'm very keen for that. We've got the Han Solo movie coming out this year, which I'm like, about. Like, I don't know about this thing, but I want to like it. Yeah, there's a lot of films coming up this year, and I'm looking forward to reviewing them all. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers, guys.